Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Smart Buying Strategies for Better Inventory Decisions. I'm Pete Theron. I'm the CEO of the Home Furnishings Association, and I'll be your host for this session presented by the HFA. In the world of furniture retail, buying the right products at the right time can mean the difference between strong sales and costly overstocks. Today, we're diving into practical strategies and real-world insights to help you use data, supplier relationships, and market trends to make smarter inventory decisions. We want this to be a highly interactive session and encourage you to post questions throughout the conversation using the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to as many of your questions as we can. Before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping notes. This webinar is recorded and will be available on demand at myhfa.org/webinar. If you have any questions, please use that Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. And we really want to thank Synchrony, our education, thought, leadership sponsor, for their dedication to the industry and support of these webinars. Now, let me introduce our panelists. We're joined by three outstanding panelists who each bring a unique perspective on media and on inventory strategy. First, we have Sarah Stuard, Manager of Retailer Partnerships at Faire.com. Sarah leads a team helping retailers discover and grow with the largest online wholesale platform in the world. She knows firsthand how data and supplier relationships can transform buying decisions. Next, Jamie Winter, co-owner of the Furniture Mall of Kansas and founder of Tools to Win. Jamie brings a unique dual perspective as a successful retailer and a tech innovator. Tools to Win helps retailers turn point-of-sale data into actionable buying insights. And finally, David McMahon, owner of Perform Now. David works directly with furniture retailers to improve sales, profits, ROI, and cash flow. He's a certified management accountant and a supply chain professional and runs retailer performance groups around the country. Well, this is a very, very rich topic. We have a lot to cover, so let's jump in. So first, just to set the stage to the panel, when you think about smart buying strategies, what's one common mistake you see retailers make?
Yeah, I can jump in first here. I think probably not surprising given my background, but obviously inventory management can be such a pain point, but not leveraging data analytics and process and like feeling comfortable to outsource some of those tasks can be a huge factor in like not doing it as optimally as you could or getting yourself into some bad situations there. So I think choosing not to leverage data-driven insights for inventory management would be the number one thing that we see.
Wow, yeah. Jamie?
Yeah, sure. I would take a very basic approach to that question. I meet with lots of retailers across the country, and one of the biggest mistakes I see is that they don't have a restocking strategy or inventory strategy, that they haven't really defined exactly where they fit into their marketplace in terms of being either high stock or low stock and what's important from that aspect. So just a very basic thing of having a clear strategy of how much merchandise we want in stock is critical to be able to make your operation work and to fit into the marketplace.
All right, and I'll
David.
just continue on with Jamie's thing. Well, after they do have a strategy, it's a challenge is a continual execution of that strategy and expecting those in the business to continually execute on whatever their strategy is. Um, you can have a strategy, but you need to be good at using your tools and execute day in, day out.
Well, so then, I mean, a theme each of you have touched on is strategy and data. So, what are a few key metrics that store owners should be paying attention to before placing orders?
Who's
Any one of you? Yeah, sorry.
okay? what should an owner do before
What are the
placing?
metrics they should be,
Oh,
everyone
what are the
should be looking
metrics?
at?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, here, I guess I'll start out. Well, I think this is about buying, right? And inventory management. I think first of all, it's the underlying principle, and I'll touch on strategy. There's two things you buy, right? You have to have a strategy for rebuying, and you have to have a strategy for new buying, and they're different. So I can blab on, but if you want an ultimate metric, it's something that uh, with buying, you have to know your sales, you have to know your inventory level, and you have to know your margin. And if you ask for one metric, something that connects it all together is GMROI. And I'll let whoever continue off of that start.
Yeah, and I would say that's definitely a very important metric and should be used to help determine, which vendors and which categories to shrink and grow. It becomes very important. But one of the other metrics, once you set your strategy, is to really understand what your open to buy is, if you have an inventory target, and then be
Yeah.
able to measure to that. And so you know that you've got a limit of how much inventory you're going to purchase. And when you start to know that you've got a problem, that you've got to step back and get rid of some of your aging inventory or something before you start buying new product again. So I think that's a very simple metric that you can set at a very high level for the total company, what your inventory target is, and set your open to buy is for that. And you can also go all the way down by each category and to set an open to buy for that. So you get a little bit more fine grained of exactly how to implement your strategy.
Do you see retailers kind of missing that step of setting an inventory target? I mean, is that a common mistake that you see?
Yes, I would say so. It's kind of back to my first point that, the number one step to this whole conversation is what is your strategy? And then, we can help you, monitor that and make sure you're implementing it correctly. But a lot of retailers have not set a clear strategy of exactly, is it your top 20% of your best sellers you want in stock? Or is it your, 100% everything on the showroom floor you want in stock? What is your strategy to compete in the marketplace? And that's different for everybody.
So a combination of having metrics that define your in stock, your target in stock position, and a target inventory level, those sometimes can be metrics that are challenging to balance.
Absolutely. I mean, the easiest thing is to say I'm gonna have 100% in stock and you have an unlimited amount of inventory,
Well,
right? To
that-
support that and make sure that happens, right? That's the easy way. But it doesn't work that way for everybody.
Sarah, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think maybe some helpful kind of context setting too from coming from the Faire lens. And I'm not sure if anyone on the webinar is currently using Faire, but we are an online wholesale marketplace. So independent retailers source products from us across every vertical. So for this audience specifically, probably not sourcing a lot of like your main inventory or furniture from Faire. While we do have some of those brands and suppliers on Faire, I think we come more into play on the like, how would you augment your existing collection or add in more like seasonal items, lamps, throws, pillows, gifts, candles, like that type of inventory. And this is something back to kind of your earlier point on knowing what your open to buy is so that you can optimize that with bringing in other like expansion categories, or if someone is already looking for like a new bed set, what other items and how can you expand your margin by having like some of those more ancillary items. And so in terms of planning, one of the advantages of sourcing these things through Faire is you can layer in smaller, faster turning products like tabletop, home fragrance, etc. So that helps smooth your cash flow and then keeps customers coming back between larger purchases.
So if you're turning it more quickly, your average inventory investment in some of those categories would be less.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll
Okay.
jump in on the topic of target level of inventory, kind of related to what Jamie and Sarah said, if you want. But it depends on your business model. I think Jamie said, like a stocking dealer who would want to carry their best seller more heavily in their best sellers. A special order focused dealer would want to carry less. So somebody that's a combination of those two would be somewhere in between. And generally, and also it matters whether you sell off the floor or whether your floor is totally nailed down. So you have to throw in another metric. It might be available inventory to sales in your excluding the floor inventory. You might have something like that. And then you would establish a percent based on your volume that you want to carry typically in stock available. So there's multiple ways of doing it. And a stocking dealer would have probably more available in the warehouse as long as they weren't carrying the wrong stuff in the warehouse than would a special order dealer. So it's finding that happy medium and kind of staying within the range. If you stay within the range of your business model and your sales stay current or expanding, then your cash flow should go up, provided your operating expenses are in line. So, all right.
But I mean, it really comes back to what we were talking about earlier, David. You're saying you need to define what your strategy is, because
yeah.
what you're really saying is your inventory goals and your turn goals and your resulting cash flow can be very, very different depending on the kind of customer experience you're creating on your floor.
Yeah, it matters what inventory you have access to and how fast that access is. An Ashley home store is going to be pulling from their warehouses. Is going to be a different model than Tools to Win. I mean, sorry, Furniture Mall.
Furniture Mall, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it really it hits home once again, saying make sure you have clearly defined your engagement strategy that then yields an inventory strategy that then yields a set of targets that you can track your success against.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in every area now talks about what the role of AI can be in any and all functional areas of a business. How do you see artificial intelligence or predictive tools helping retailers make better buying decisions in the future?
Who wants that one?
I think part of the real focus there is, and help can be in forecasting and getting better job at understanding exactly what the demand is going to be over time with seasonality and with tariffs and everything else, to try to understand exactly what that forecast demand is going to be. However, for most independent retailers, this is a very high ticket, low turn rate industry. And so a good seller for you may be 2 a month, 3 a month. It's not Amazon or Walmart where they've got thousands of items per month of the same SKU. It just doesn't happen for us in this industry. So, there's a low amount of data in there to be able to really utilize a lot of AI to forecast that better. But obviously, with the seasonality and depending on where you are in the country, your seasonality can be significant or very low. Where we're at, I mean, we're plus or minus 10% a month all year long. We don't have a lot of seasonality, but other areas where lots of people have second homes and so forth, there is significant seasonality to be able to take that into place. So a lot of areas where AI can be used there, as well as in the automating of reordering and so forth.
You did touch on something that is, I wouldn't call it unique to furniture, but it's not terribly common. When your business is very low units, very high average ticket, it makes your margin for error small. If what you need is 10 sofas and you order 15, well, 15 sofas might not sound like that doesn't sound like a lot. Well, it's 50% more than your demand. And our business, because of the very high average ticket, is kind of vulnerable that way relative to a lot of other businesses. It's a very important point you raised there, Jamie. Other thoughts on AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things that's like, however you can optimize it, you should be. Coming back to what we were chatting about earlier with making sure you're optimizing your data-driven insights, like this is where AI can transform and you can like outsource some of these tasks to AI. So thinking about like on Faire, we can analyze millions of sales signals across, to your point, Jamie, like geo, price point, seasonality, product type prediction, like what's most likely to sell in your specific store. And then leveraging that to understand patterns and insights from hundreds of thousands of buyers that can improve your decision making And then also leveraging like predictive tools for how you can discover new brands and complementing your existing collection with like new bestsellers or what's the next trending thing, and helping you just make better decisions, and you're not feeling like you're flying on intuition alone, and like layering in that data piece. Like that's where AI can basically like tie a bow on all of that and really help inform those decisions.
It can integrate quantities and a breadth of data that would be very, very challenging for a person to try to build models around on their own, even with good computing power.
Yeah.
So,
I'll
okay.
chime in on everything that was said. I agree, obviously, with both Jamie and Sarah. And I was thinking about this. The real thing, and everybody should be using AI in some fashion within their business or personally now. But really, the big thing is there's a lot of data out there now, and there always has been. But what AI does is it allows you to search through that data and narrow into it at a speed that no human can ever do. You can find the smartest researcher in the world and you can kick their butt at the speed in which you can obtain some data. So in the end, it's like what you have is somebody's got to make a decision though at the end of the day, right? So I don't know whether it's there to make the decision for you, but it's really a quick decision support system, and that's really how I see it affecting inventory. Can it sift through your data and recommend rebuy levels? Absolutely. Can it sift through market information and recommend or bring to light trends that are happening now or possibly going to happen across different regions or different parts of the world way quicker than any human can do it? So that's where I see it coming in.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's funny, you kind of think to yourself, if you had too much data, too much information, would you be kind of paralyzed from making decisions? But you've also kind of talked about an ability to simplify the data too, so that
Well,
you're not just, it's something that just hits you with data like a fire hose. If anything,
yeah,
that might be hurtful.
you
But
can tell the AI that's too much data. Give me the top three.
yeah. No,
Yeah, that's
that's
partly where
fascinating power. Yeah.
yeah, I would say that's definitely part of where a lot of the power from AI is coming, to be able to take all that data down and simplify it and give you some real direction. And it's kind of amazing what it can do just in your own business and your own website. We've got specialists on the floor using it for, customers says they need a full-size sleeper. Well, sometimes that's hard to find whether you have that in stock or not. But you can type into AI, hey, do I have it? Is there any full-size sleepers available on FurnitureMall.com? And it'll tell you. I mean, right there, the specialists are using their own tools to help sell product. It's
And you don't
crazy.
even need to type it in. You could talk to it. You could say,
Yes.
give me 3 sectionals that I have in stock that are better priced than my competitor, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Because it's all on the
Jamie,
website.
but Jamie referred to I believe he referred to a phenomenon that you see on some very sophisticated selling floors, which is the showroom floor is really only the tip of the iceberg of what they can make available to you if you have very specific design needs or whatever it might be. I mean, and AI could say, can you go find this for me if it's out there? I mean, they have
Yeah.
a lot of design oriented showroom floors has the ability to access a lot of product that's never ever been on their floor before. So again, a sophisticated tool for search and then a great customer experience.
Yeah, I've seen some retailers get really creative too with even like laying out showroom and using it to merchandise, and you can plug in different products and design like end caps or room designs, things like that. So that's kind of a cool way to think about how does all of this inventory look together before you actually like take the leap to purchase a new brand or something like that.
Right.
Mhm.
There used to be
Mhm.
elaborate systems out there. I remember 10 years ago about room planning. Now you can say, hey, do you have a picture of your room? Hey, there's the sofa. Put that sofa in your room. I know people doing that now. It's easy.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy with
Yeah, yeah.
AI.
It's yeah, that kind of design software has an ability to imagine and create in real time right in front of the customer that we couldn't even imagine, say, 3, 4 years ago. I mean, it truly does. So let's talk a bit about when you're trying to make really good decisions around changing demand. I mean, it's easy to overbuy when you're trying to stay stocked for a changing customer demand. I think every retailer, I certainly could tell a few, has a story of chasing accelerating demand and then finding themselves with a big overstock because they chased. It calls to mind some of the challenges we heard that Peloton had as they were chasing demand during COVID, and all of a sudden the demand stopped and they had product on the water. So, but
Well,
what
it happened here too.
it happens in many. Everyone has a story like that. I have one that I don't want to tell everybody. I need to be a credible host here, but anyway. But what kind of advice or skills or tools do you see for making good decisions in that accelerating demand environment?
All right. Well, accelerating demand. It's a lot of buying is done based on past information. So somehow we have to have our crystal ball out there on the future. So I guess to keep your finger on the pulse of sales and traffic in your area, and if you see things start to trend down and you have some overstock coming in, it's time to start priming the pump or whatever you call it on that in advance of it hitting your dock. So just keep up to date and current with what's going on in your area, and try not to get surprised, because unless something crazy happens, demand doesn't fall off the cliff overnight. It trails down. So, but and it could trail up as well if interest rates all of a sudden start falling really quickly and the housing market kicks in. It's going to go the other way. I don't know.
Well, I think you touched on something, Dave. Most of the time when you get into trouble, it isn't because demand hit a brick wall. It's because you got a bit too aggressive chasing it. So probably more often than not, it's a self-inflicted wound, but that's easy to say from afar. What are other ways you've seen to make the very best decisions in that kind of environment?
Who wants it?
Well, I would say it's a difficult position, and unfortunately, most of what most independent retailers are working on right now is not keeping up with the positive growth demand. It's making sure you're slimming down your purchases to make sure that you're up to date with the lower demand that's happening right now for most retailers. So that's the difficult part of when to, looking at those orders that you placed, a while back at market and they still haven't shipped. Should you cancel some of those, right? Depending on what's selling and what you have on your inventory and what your open to buy is. I mean, some of those are difficult decisions that you got to go back and trim some things that so you're not overstocked. And there's probably not a retailer on the call that does not have a few items still left from the COVID expansion sitting in their warehouse. I mean, everybody
Gosh, I
made
hope
mistakes.
not.
Everybody made mistakes, and they were big mistakes. And most retailers are extreme penny pinchers, and it is very difficult for them to clearance those at a price below cost, if that's what it's going to take to get them gone. But at a point when you start looking at your open and buy, you've got a target. That old stuff has just got to go. And Black Friday coming up is a perfect time to unload those at crazy under cost prices for those stuff that you've overstocked. So that's a
But
great opportunity to get rid of overstocks.
when you think of it, if you sold the old stuff at below cost, it's probably above cost if you were to replace it today.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, half a cost or 70% off a cost, whatever that ends up being to be
Good
attractive.
value still, probably.
Yeah, well,
Based on
I mean, at a certain point, the value of the product is the value of the product. What you paid for it isn't relevant. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're
Right.
stuck on that, you're going to keep making bad decisions.
Yeah.
I don't diminish the pain involved,
Yes.
but still, it is what it is. Sarah, what are the roles of supplier relationships or kind of distributor partnerships, platforms like Faire to kind of help you in that kind of environment too?
Yeah, it's a really good question and a good point that you make, Jamie, because I feel like you can feel so beholden to holding on to that product to sell at cost, and you're just totally killing your margin and your holding costs and bringing other inventory in. I think to your question, Peter, retailers today think about suppliers more as flexible partners than just vendors. And then Faire helps make that possible by extending net 60 payment terms and free returns on opening orders so that you can de risk the buying process, and it lets you make more intelligent risks and trying new things with your open to buy without overcommitting, to your point on like overbuying or going all in on one brand. So we kind of think about it in like almost try before you buy. Like net 60 payment terms gives you the opportunity to actually get product in your store, get it in front of your customer and see if it resonates with them. And then if it's still sitting on the shelf and hasn't been touched 30, 40 days later, you can still return that product for free. So you never even go through like the pain of accounting, returns, etc. And it allows you to kind of explore and anchor to your mainstays while still bringing in new trends, looking for bestsellers, things like that. But then you're leveraging terms so that you're not dipping into your cash flow.
Well, I mean, you've really touched on something we really haven't talked about so far. I mean, inventory, managing your inventory and supporting your sales, those two things are very, very important. Managing cash is another major component of being able to drive success. It needs to be an equal partner in all of those decisions. Anytime you have the ability to better manage cash, reduce risk on excess inventory with, like you described, payment terms that give you flexibility. Those are important decisions too. So, David, you work with stores on improving sell-through and cash flow. I mean, kind of building on that point. What are the best practices for preventing overbuying while still being ready for peak sales at the same time? I mean, sell-through, it's great to manage your inventory really well, but if it's not leading to sell-through and peak sales, then you're not really helping your business as much as you really need to.
So practices on maintaining proper cash flow with inventory management, that couple things like that.
And improving sell through and cash flow. I mean, how we started to touch on that. How do your inventory best practices drive peak performance in those areas?
Okay, well, managing inventory and buying and sales management, they're totally intertwined. Okay, so first of all, I mean, everybody wants cash flow growth, and that comes from first of all understanding what the cash flow formula is and how sales and inventory impact it. So, I mean, you have to make profit at the end of the day, right? So profit comes from sales minus the margin and minus your operating expenses. And then from there, that's the first thing that's going to affect cash flow. So you have the inventory margin matters, is a huge part of that. And then on the next thing that affects cash flow is balancing the inventory level. So keeping the right range of inventory to the sales that you have. And by keeping inventory at that right level and maximizing margin, provided your OE is good, then you're going to expand your cash flow. Okay. Uh, and also watching customer deposits, which is related to written sales. So I'm kind of blabbing on, but I think it's very important for retailers to have a clear perspective of what affects cash flow. Sales does not equal cash. Sales is a component of cash flow. So I can go on any part of that, or anybody else could chime in, but
Certainly sales is a part of it, but you're managing your inventory effectively probably has a larger impact on your cash flow than sales do.
well, I don't know, because that's debatable. I mean, the only purpose of inventory is to sell it, right? So,
Yeah.
and you have to have the right level in order. I don't know. I can
Yeah,
go on.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
David's right. If you don't have your best sellers in stock, which costs you money, you may lose out on sales, absolutely. So it's a fine balance there between having stock to make sure that you can maximize your sales, but not being over inventoried.
Mhm.
David referred to something too, is excess inventory tends to put pressure on margin because you feel pressure to bring the inventory down. You feel pressure to do it quickly. And the easiest way to do that is with a red pen. He was kind of an old school reference.
Yeah.
So it does put pressure on margin if you make bad inventory decisions.
Yeah. Well, the high margin comes from the sales and the turns of your best sellers. It doesn't come from getting rid of your dogs, we'll call it. So, but in order to find a bestseller, you have to buy new merchandise, right? So that comes after you sell the dog. So yes, you're getting rid of something at a lower margin, but in an attempt to roll the dice to find something of high margin in turns. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, your margin strategy and your inventory strategy need to be really well matched.
You got to roll the dice as many times as possible.
And stay close to reorder rates and like actually knowing what are your low inventory turn and high inventory turn so that you can deploy capital in the right places and not have a dog sitting around for too long.
Yeah, yeah. Jamie, from your own store's experiences, what have you learned the hard way about buying? How do you and how has that impacted your approach today?
It's a good segue to Sarah's comment about dogs. It's one of the things I've learned is that it's much easier to improve and maximize your best sellers than it is to replace a dud with a bestseller or replace your dogs with your bestseller. That's hard to
Mhm.
find the next bestseller, and it takes lots of iterations to get there. But if you look at your best sellers, and if you got a best selling, sofa love seat, it'll probably be twice as good if you also show it as a sectional, right? If that's an option. So you show the same frame on your floor as a sofa love seat and as a sectional. It's your best seller. You're guaranteed to grow your sales instead of trying to take that sofa over in the corner that you haven't sold for a year and replacing it with the next best seller. That's hard. And so I think that's definitely one of the things that we have learned. And the cost of replacing that dog is expensive because you've got to buy new product, you got to bring it to the floor, you have to re-accessorize, and you have to clearance the old one off, clearance any stock that you have, and it takes time and effort. So you got to make sure that you're focusing your time appropriately. And a lot of times your time is better spent focusing on what's already working than what's not.
Yeah. Back
And
to the beginning, there's two aspects with inventory management: rebuying your good things and the new with the rest. So good.
well, and something Jamie just referred to is the nature of our business is that you can't, when you make a mistake, small or large, but even just small, you can't pivot quickly. The product is large. You sell, as we were talking about earlier, you sell low units at high dollar. So if you make a mistake, it takes time to kind of slowly push it out the door.
Yes.
We're not selling perishable goods here. These aren't groceries. So it's your mistakes you're more painfully reminded of them than you might be in other kinds of consumer retail.
Well, I'll tell you the truth with all buyers, 100% of them are going to make mistakes. Okay. So you have to have a system to allow for that truth.
Yes, yes. It's a little like when you're renovating your home, you always have a contingency budget for the inevitable surprises. Well, assume you're going to have a few mistakes and you're going to have a little bit of inventory dollars reserved to be able to handle that. Is that
Yeah.
right?
And if you believe the 80-20 rule to where, 80% of your margin dollars are going to come from 20% of your product selection, that means the buyer is 80% of the time wrong.
Yeah.
80% of the time they did not pick a bestseller.
Yes. So don't sweat it. It's the truth. Just have a system to handle it.
David, what are you hearing from your performance groups? Are you hearing new things, new trends, new challenges? What are you hearing?
Yeah, that's a common question I get. Okay, so yeah, I mean, just got off of five 5 different groups. They're really from all over North America and some around the world. And you know, over what am I hearing? People usually want to know what am I hearing as far as business goes. Okay, there's always new trends and new technologies and all that kind of stuff. There's always great new ideas. You know, as far as though performance in the future, I'm hearing actually a lot of positive positive things. Okay, certain areas are more positive than others, but I just feel that in looking at the last couple meetings that things have in the industry, anyways, have kind of flattened out. So I don't see much downward pressure on things. Um, so I do see some hope for the future, especially if interest rates fall. So if that gives you that's what I'm hearing and see. So
Yeah, I mean, everyone seems to be pegging their anticipated turnaround interest rates.
yeah.
Interest rates accelerate home sales. Nothing drives demand
Well,
for furniture like having a new address.
well, we really need that to happen because inventory costs are not going down. Okay.
No,
If you
that's a
include
topic for another webinar.
yeah. So if interest rates go up, watch your cash flow. Anyways,
Yeah, it's I mean, certainly if the cost of product goes up, and we won't go down that tangent, but the need to be adjusting inventory strategies to reflect that reality rather than pretending it isn't there, pretending you can just keep doing what you've always been doing.
yeah.
It requires a level of flexibility and talent in the warehouse in order to be able to continue to support success.
Mhm.
So Sarah, are you seeing changes in the way that retailers are using the kind of flexibility and services that you guys can provide that changes the way they work?
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to speak to that a little bit. I think flexibility is so critical, especially right now where there seems to be like no one has a crystal ball, what's going to happen next kind of tension. Um, and then using tools that allow you to like have lower order minimums and reorder quickly and be agile and adapt to demand so that you're not just like forecasting in a vacuum. I think in the past, like at Faire, because we were around through all of COVID, as all of you were, and just the ability to quickly find new suppliers and keep inventory in stock for retailers if their existing suppliers had supply chain issues, and adapting to find what supply retailers needed was such a critical moment during COVID. And then now, like with ever-changing landscape of tariffs and economy, we have all types of search filters on Faire, so you can search where a product is made, where it's shipping from, what the lead time is, what the order minimum is. All of those types of things help buyers and retailers maintain that flexibility. And then also connecting authentically. Like, even though Faire is a tech platform, we still have built-in tools so that retailers can connect directly with their suppliers on, whatever the case may be about an order or a custom product, what have you. So I think that those things definitely are important, and we see um, retailers like really leaning into some of those tools, um, leveraging all of those things that you have at your disposal. We have a program called Insider, which is a free shipping program for retailers. So anything that can kind of help like de-risk and then optimize relationships with suppliers is like,
Well, and flexibility more than ever is such a valuable commodity right now. I mean, because if you don't really know what's coming, and the dynamic of supply chain is changing so fast these days, flexibility is a very, very valuable asset to you right now. So you don't get yourself into something you couldn't have predicted. So.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I actually have a story from that this morning. I met with vendors are starting to really understand that, I think. And I met with a potential mattress vendor this morning that we don't carry today. And they mentioned a couple of things that really got my attention. And one was that, hey, we guarantee we will ship within 48 hours of your order, which just, allows me to reduce my inventory, reduce my risk, everything else. And then they said, oh, by the way, we will eliminate any minimum orders. You want to order one mattress, we'll ship you one mattress, free delivery, no problem. So that was
That's
just
flexibility.
fantastic flexibility.
Yeah.
And, definitely considering them more than what we anticipated when going into the meeting. So we didn't expect them to say that.
That's a fascinating capability. You might not be able to take advantage of that in every single kind of part of your assortment, but having that kind of opportunity in a couple of key areas frees
Yeah,
up inventory dollars in other areas. It's where you can choose to invest.
right.
Really, really interesting tool that way.
In that case, inventory's free.
Yes,
Yes, it
pretty
is.
much.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into what the payment terms would be on that. So, but it would be the customer would have been sleeping on it for a while before you pay
Yeah,
for it in that case.
right.
Yes, that's great. So all right, we've talked about a lot of the levers that give people access to flexibility, cash management, and ultimately enabling stronger sales and profitability. In one sentence, if you were going to give one piece of advice to a retailer looking to make better buying decisions in the next quarter, what would you tell them?
I would say I'm going to give you two instead of one.
That's great. I'm only
So I
paying
would,
you for one though, okay?
all right. So a couple of things we've talked about already. One is that set your strategy. Get a strategy based to be competitive in your market based on reorder levels and making sure that you stock what you think is going to be make you the most competitive and most cost competitive. And the second is that all these metrics that we've talked about, maybe you've got to have some way to automate all those metrics coming in. So you don't spend half your time trying to calculate what your open to buy is, try to calculate exactly how many pieces of this one particular SKU to order, or to calculate what the GMRI is on this vendor. So those are critical to be able for you to focus on making decisions quickly and accurately.
Very good. Very good. Sarah, what would you say?
Yeah. I mean, the obvious one is I would love everyone to try Faire and place an order on Faire if you have never used it before. It's a free tool to use. I think you might be pleasantly surprised at expansion category opportunities there if you haven't checked it out. And then in addition to that, I honestly think kind of just going off of what Jamie said is like everyone here has a lot of experience and strong intuition and don't hesitate to start with the foundational data piece or leveraging AI, like use everything at your disposal and then layer in your intuition onto that.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
All right.
David.
All right. Maybe so what could somebody do? I would encourage people to define what their organization and their people can do that's different and better than their competitors in their region and promote the heck out of that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, kind of a strategic insight about yourself in order to make good decisions.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be. I think people should seek to stand out from their competition, from the internet. Why should somebody shop with you? What do you do better? Figure out your competitive advantage and go all in on that, whatever it is,
Good.
whether it's inventory or sales or something else.
We do have one question. One of our listeners sent a question that says, "Where do I begin in setting a buying strategy? What are the first elements that I should define to be able to articulate and start practicing a buying strategy?"
I would say, I mean, just a couple of things to think about and to really focus on. One would be is is, what percentage of your showroom should you have in stock? Is it 20% of your showroom? Is it 50% of your showroom? What is your target to be competitive so that you can, understand what that looks like? And then that'll drive what your inventory target is. So once you understand that, all right, I'm gonna focus on having in stock 30% of my showroom. Now you can start to calculate what should my inventory target be? And now I can set tools around that to manage that and optimize that.
Yeah, make sure you're clear on who you are and who you're trying to be for the consumers in your area, and build the strategy around that.
Okay. Okay.
So that,
Yeah, Jamie, as you referred to, I think if people really did that kind of analysis that you described, I think a lot of retailers make the mistake of assuming their in-stock position is like peanut butter. You just spread it smoothly across the whole piece of bread, when that isn't a necessary strategy for many retail storefronts. You can have never out, good stock support, special order, like your mattresses. You practically become special order at that point. So
Right.
yeah, no, that's a really good insight. Well, I'd really like to thank our panelists for being here today. I mean, this was a marvelous and robust discussion, a lot of innovative conversation about something that people think of as um, perhaps a part of retail that doesn't have as much creativity and innovation. And yet this conversation today shows you how much creativity and innovation there is and the impact that it has on your business. We also want to thank Synchrony for sponsoring our webinars. We hope that you're leaving with practical ideas to evaluate your approach to product, customer support, driving sales. But before you go, don't forget to complete the post-webinar survey. You'll receive a link shortly, and if you'd like to revisit any part of today's discussion, the recording will be available soon. Our next webinar is Thursday, October 30th. That webinar will be Stop the Loss, Proven Strategies to Cut Damage and Returns. Until then, thanks for tuning in and trusting HFA to support your success. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter.